Who would have thought that a little over a year later of me talking about Ocarina of Time, we'd be back, coming together again, staring lovingly into each other's eyes to talk about Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom was weird for me. I really don't know how to explain it, but we're already here, so I guess I'll try my best. This video is really just going to be me talking about my experience with it, as well as the ups and downs I had with the game. And I do actually have things I enjoyed, I promise. So, stick around, and before you get your keyboards armed, remember, I'm just a dude on the internet. This is my opinion and my experience. There are going to be pretty major spoilers in this video. If you haven't played the game and experienced it for yourself, I would recommend doing so before watching this. Put this video to the side and come back to it later once you've played the game. For those who have played the game or don't care about spoilers, I'm going to be breaking this video up into a few different parts. The first one I'll be going over is the story. I want to say right off the bat, this is easily my favorite story told in a Zelda game up until now. The emotions I felt watching every cutscene for the first time is a feeling I don't think I'll ever be able to replicate. Seeing all of the champion crew from Breath of the Wild come back being a little older, it's so hard to explain, but I kind of love that stuff. It just felt like a reunion of old friends. However, the way the game tells the story I enjoyed so much also makes it possible to spoil important details before the player hits key points in the game. Like Breath of the Wild, this game also has memories you can collect as you explore Hyrule, and it'll give you cutscenes about what happened in the past. Oh yeah, Zelda time traveled back into the past, and just like all time travel in the series, it left me with more questions than answers. The cutscenes we get as Zelda in the past lead us to know what is going on in the game while we play. The problem with this is, I knew one of the biggest pivotal moments in the story before the game's main story got me to that point. So by the time I actually got to experience the major plot points, I knew what was going on already. And don't get me wrong, when I first discovered all the memories, I was stoked. I was all in and wanted to get the rest of the memories to find out more. But that feeling kind of died off once I realized the main story missions were kind of getting to the same points, just a lot slower. There wasn't really anything majorly new added that gave me more of a look on what happened into the past. This is where I think the game tried to tell a linear story in an open world setting. We were allowed to explore however we wanted to, just like Breath of the Wild, but that just led to getting all of the memories early, like I did. It's like the game wants you to follow the story missions to get the tier memories alongside each other as you go, but doesn't do anything to make that happen or have you believe that. There are ways to tell a linear story in an open world. Save the spoiler cutscenes for way later in the game locked behind main story missions and progression so they aren't as easily discoverable while exploring the open world. The final fight with Ganondorf has been the final fight I've always wanted in a Zelda game. Being in the depths, 1v1ing him was so fucking cool. It was pretty difficult the first time around too. Having to learn his patterns along with the gloom health reduction, and him being able to flurry rush you back was so insane it felt like I was playing a Souls game. It was really intense, especially with one part of his health bar just going on what felt like forever. The dragon fight afterward was also really cool, though I prefer more humanoid-sized fights in action RPGs, but the fights alongside the ending cutscenes and the music were just mwah, chef's kiss. It was so good. I have such a conflict of emotions with the exploration in this game, and I've had this feeling since before the game's launch. How do you take an already vast and dense world and improve upon it? Well, Nintendo's answers was to go vertical with it. Send us to heaven and to hell, basically. The Sky Islands were such an exciting concept that unfortunately missed the mark for me. I was really thinking we were going to get these huge islands to explore and uncover, a lot like the main tutorial island, but for the most part, they ended up being copy-paste islands with the same gimmicks to unlock shrines and the same cube enemy boss fights. You've seen it once and you've seen them all, and I get it. Where do all these islands come from? You can't just have them all be huge, floating above the existing Hyrule. I think the game kind of explained it, but not really. Like, I get that they saved the island for Link in the future or whatever. I don't really fully remember it. I guess I just wanted more variety in the designs of the islands. The main one was so exciting to explore the first time around, and I wish that carried on through the rest of the islands. At first, I saw the islands as exciting and new, but once I started to explore them more, my excitement quickly plummeted. That leads me to the depths. My first experience with the depths was so terrifying. I jumped in right after the Sky Islands with no paraglider and obliterated my kneecaps. The first time hearing the music that plays, seeing how dark it was immediately filled me with excitement to explore. This was only made even more intimidating by the health reduction from the gloom. Everything went into making you feel so alone and vulnerable. It was crazy. That was the first time a Zelda game made me feel that way. That was until it ended up feeling like a waste of my time. For starters, navigating the depths is awful. Either I was running forever or trying to make a vehicle to help me go faster, only to hit a hill or a wall that went on forever. Thinking back on it now, though, I'm sure the majority of the exploration they wanted me to explore from the top, entering the different holes into different areas, but I wanted to explore it all from the bottom. That's probably my fault, I'm sure. I'm sure I'm missing some key element in exploring here, or maybe it's just that stupid to explore, I don't know. Along with this, the rewards just weren't worth the time. A lot, if not all, were just armor, which is cool in theory. I mean, I would still take that over materials or arrows, don't get me wrong, but there aren't really any new armor sets that weren't previously in Breath of the Wild outside of a few of them. This is for the people who never got the chance to get the armor with the amiibos in Breath of the Wild, but for me, I've seen them already and it didn't really motivate me to fully comb through the depths when I hated exploring the area already. I feel the same way for the caves as well. They were something new and exciting to explore at first and could even branch out to more pathways, some of which even had armor rewards waiting at the end. In a few cases, I enjoyed that, like with the Mystic armor, finally an original armor set, but overall they didn't have anything to push me to keep exploring them after getting enough bubble gems for Colton. I love the new enemies they added. The Bokoblin and Moblin variants, the boss Bokoblins, the Zonai constructs, the Gibdos, the Like-Likes, the Frox, the Aracuda, and all the Gleeoks. It definitely adds more variety than just Bokoblins, Moblins, and Lynels. The first time I came across Phantom Ganon, I almost shit myself. Seeing all those hands pop out of the ground, I felt so helpless. I had no idea what to do. And then when you finally beat all of the hands and then the real Phantom Ganon comes out, dude, it was so sick. I finally felt like I made progress in being good at the combat. Speaking of, all the boss fights in this time around were such a breath of fresh air, but we'll get into that a bit later. The combat this time definitely seemed buffed up, leading to me using more food combos and potions. Getting one-shot by most enemies early in the game made me think about combat situations more, but also led me to just fighting less and running away more. I didn't want to waste durability, so I ended up only fighting the enemies to farm monster parts for weapon fuses, and after I got the Master Sword, this happened even less. All of this to say that after a while, my yearn to explore faded. I didn't want to explore the old world anymore. I was much quicker to look up answers for overworld locations of things. I really just ended up jumping from one research tower to the next and used the paraglider to get around. Let me just say, I am so sick of shrines. I hated them in the first game, and they added even more in this game, even going to adding 120 light roots connecting to them in the depths, reminding me of all the things I had to do just to spite me. They managed to add 32 extra shrines from Breath of the Wild, going from 120 to 152 shrines, with the new 32 being scattered between the land and the sky. But like, why? Who is out there excited about doing more shrines? I know I'm not, but maybe I'm the minority, I don't know. I will say that compared to Breath of the Wild, the shrines in Tears of the Kingdom ended up feeling a lot better to do. I'll at least give them that. The new abilities and fuse mechanics ended up bringing a new twist to the shrines that let you stretch your creativity. From being able to fuse items, making contraptions to get you to your goal, or getting to try out a lot of weapon combos in the Naked and Afraid shrines. But that feeling only lasted for a short period of time. They are still repetitive time wasters that these games could do severely without. So despite the nice things I did say, they're still not really my favorite. Even so, I did all of them still. The reward for doing it is actually sick, but it just leaves me with more questions. The reward I'm talking about is the Ancient Hero outfit. Who is he? Was he the Link in Raru's time? If not, where was the Link in Raru's time? Is he the person that's on the tapestry in Breath of the Wild of the fight that happened 10,000 years ago? If so, what's his actual story? I hope we can get some explanation at some point before we leave this game setting behind. I know we're not getting any DLC for the game, but I can still dream, okay? I really like the theory that the past is a retelling of Ocarina of Time, with certain cutscenes having subtle nods and maybe some DLC or add-on could build to this point, but like I said, I know we're not getting anything. The other reward, if you can even call it that, is worse. Why in this game can we still not get full health and stamina? The beginning had both before we were zapped by Ganondorf. Did his Depresso goo permanently damage Link's arms so much that we can never reach that point again? I really thought with the extra shrines that were added that we would finally be able to max out our stats, but no. It's just really frustrating after the slog of doing all the shrines, realizing that you can't even get full of both. The dungeons had the potential to be something great. They almost hit the mark for me. The events leading up to getting the dungeons ended up being more enjoyable than the actual dungeons. When you get to the locations, all it becomes is turn on these 5 switches using whatever sage power, and then go to the boss. I realized while recording this part that this concept is very similar to the dungeons in past Zelda games, when you get the key item and then the rest of the dungeon is built around that key item that you get. But having more variety than same old turn on 5 switches would have been nice to see. It was just insanely underwhelming. The boss fights in the dungeons, on the other hand, were actually sick. I was excited to see the unique boss designs and not just see copy and paste blight Ganons for every boss. It was able to keep it refreshing when going through the surrounding repetition, which was severely needed. And oh my god, the goddamn repetitive sage cutscenes after beating the bosses. It's the same cutscene told 5 times, with only like a slight variation, if the only difference is the different sages in the cutscenes. It doesn't help that I couldn't relate to the sages at all in the past, probably due to the masks and having the same story told to me over and over. I connected way more with the set of sages in the present, even in their champion forms. Yes, even you, Yunobo, you bastard, blowing shit up whenever I'm just trying to pick up an item. Overall, I would say my experience with this game was enjoyable. And I know that compared to what I've been saying all video, it may come as a surprise, but I just love Zelda, man. It's a shame that they announced the game way too early for its own good, and the actual release didn't live up to my expectations from the hype. But there were a lot of Tears of the Kingdom videos recommended to me when the game first came out. Now I don't really see that many. So far, it still shows that there's a lot more love for Breath of the Wild in terms of mods and speedruns, but hey, only time will tell. The game's only been out for, like, almost a year. Like I said before, I get it. There's only so much you can add to an already used map to make it really feel new. I will say, though, I am beyond stoked to see what they do with what they've learned in a new Zelda game with a new setting and an open-world format. The opportunities are endless. I'm hoping they mix in the old elements that the people love with the new elements that work. I know I'm never going to get a FromSoft game experience in a Zelda game. I know I'm probably not the target audience. But I love the Zelda franchise, and I will keep buying them as long as they keep making them. If you made it to the end of my rambling, thank you. If you liked the video and you're not subbed, maybe hit that button and hang out for a while. It would mean a lot to me and, make the number go bigger. This was my first fully scripted video. The Ocarina of Time one, I kind of just went off the dome with a little bit of bullet points. But with this one, I wanted to collect my thoughts a little bit more and have a more in-depth conversation. Let me know what your thoughts on Tears of the Kingdom are down in the comments. And remember, I'm just a random dude. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me in my little corner of the internet, and I'll see y'all later.